There is no going back anymore. The input gear is rusted to bits, and there's literally beach sand inside the differential case. That right there is really bad. Welcome back to the channel. Chris here at Sanford Hobbytown. We've got the sledge. In the last video, we drove this thing straight into the ocean. We have a problem. She's not working anymore. As everybody knows down in the comments on the last video, everyone said it's like the worst thing you can do is drive your RC car into salt water, and that is 100% true. And right now we're going to find out what the salt water did to the sledge. I've looked at it already a little bit. It's possible it might be dead forever. The water ended up getting in the receiver box. As you saw, I took this thing to the showers and immediately rinsed it off with fresh water. That's kind of the first step to try to reverse the salt water corrosion process. The next morning, I kind of realized that that did pretty much nothing because it started rusting anyways. The following day, I sprayed some WD-40 on some of the screws, the bearings, and any areas that were showing signs of rust, just to kind of keep this thing in the best possible condition that we can to get the best chance of survival. This thing did run, actually, after the beach one time. It powered up and I drove it. After like about 2 minutes, it stopped and it cut out completely. So I really don't know what the extent of the damage is. I think something serious is going on here. We're gonna take off the cover here and just take a look on the inside. Look at this. She is locked up tight. So that's really bad. Channel 1 is where the water started, and then it made its way to channel 2. If you remember in the video, I lost steering first, but throttle was still working. But eventually it's made its way to the throttle channel, and there was no turning back after that. And you can see the corrosion has made its way basically to every single one of the pins in here. So now I'm thinking that the actual speed controller is fried out from the salt water, and I'm not really sure if that's the case. So I've got the radio. I'm gonna pop the batteries in and just see. This thing's been sitting on the shelf for a few days now, thinking about what she's done and where she's been and what's to come. Ooh. See, that's not good. It's not turning on. Yeah, that's not good. I have a new receiver in there, but I just want to double check that everything is still okay inside here. When I put a new receiver in there, I made sure that there was no more water. And this is the area where I'm talking about where you want that silicone grease to keep the water from going in. There is some foam here to help, but unfortunately that wasn't enough. The salt water was, it was out for blood this time. Let's pull that off here, and everything's looking pretty good. Got that new receiver in here, and everything looks great. So up on the fan, you can see where some of that corrosion is sitting. And over here by the fuse, you can see where all that corrosion is sitting in there. That is not good, so I'm pretty confident that this ESC is toasted. We've got the fan off. There's corrosion down here. There's corrosion over here. All right, so here you can see a lot of the waterproofing, which is all this glossy coating on the board. So you can't even really see the board. Where anything is exposed, the corrosion has gotten to any of these pins, the fuse on the side here. So we're going to plug this one in, and that should resolve our issue. Now, I just want to go ahead and look at a couple other items on this vehicle before we go ahead and put the new ESC in. Oh yeah, so look at that. We definitely have some rust residue near the bearings, and oh yeah. Ooh, that is not good. Look at that. You can see how rusty the ring gear is inside there. So the water definitely got in, and you can see how rusty this bearing is. Also, it is free though, and that probably is thanks to the WD-40, but it definitely has some rust, and you can see the other side here, how rusty it is inside there. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Do you see how much sand is inside this differential case?
It's probably not gonna be
Look,
working
look, look,
again.
look. Let me,
Chris.
look. I'm gonna get a little screwdriver in here. Dude, look at that. Can you focus on that? Look at that screwdriver right there. That is all sand inside
See, now you made me. It's
the diff.
focus.
There is no going back anymore. The input gear is rusted to bits, and there's literally beach sand inside the differential case. So that right there is really bad, okay? And
So I say we get her started and then just drive her straight into the ocean.
here's the deal. Like Kat said, this thing belongs in the ocean. What I could do is I could certainly replace the differentials, replace the input gear, clean out the differential cases, get all the sand out, do all of that stuff 100%, absolutely, I could definitely do that. Or I could literally just shove this back in with the beach sand still installed, put the new ESC in, and run it the way it is and see how much longer it's gonna run after the beach. And I think we're gonna do the second one for two reasons. One reason is I really don't feel like replacing all those parts that I just mentioned. And also, I would really just like to hear, hear the sand grinding when I'm driving it. I think it's gonna run a little while longer. When you see this thing in the videos, just remember, when you see the green sledge, it literally has beach sand in the differentials, okay? Okay, get these screws back in here. Look how rusted these screws are that I'm putting back into this vehicle. Can you see that? Yeah, like I said, I think the rust is really gonna help with the performance.
This is left-handed, so I don't know how well.
Yeah. So this went over here, like so. Is attached here. We're gonna power up the radio, plug in the batteries, power it up, and see what happens here. All right, ready? Here we go. It's not turning on. So, apparently, this sledge is now cursed, and it still doesn't work. Isn't that incredible?
So what do you think could be wrong with it?
Dude, what is going on here? What could possibly be preventing this thing from turning on? Well, the first reason is probably the fact that I left the sand in the front diff. Now the sledge is really mad at me. I wonder if the steering servo is shorting it out. Maybe that's it.
So try plugging it in.
Yep. Ooh, okay.
So we
found the source of the ticking here. This is what's happening. The steering servo, as you can see, well, you can't really see, but in there, it's corroded. And what's happening is it's shorting out the receiver. So I unplugged the steering servo, and now everything's powering up. So the moral of the story is, and I probably should have checked this first because this is not common, but on ARMA vehicles, this has happened to me a lot. So usually whenever there's a speed controller issue, the first thing I do is unplug the steering servo, but I figured everything was fried because we drove it on the beach. So I just assumed that the speed controller is bad. Now I'm thinking maybe the speed controller is not bad. And I'm obviously just gonna leave this one in here because it's new and this thing's pretty toasty. But I'm just curious whether or not this thing actually still works. I think it probably does. So we got this plugged in here. Let's plug in the batteries, being careful here not to short anything out. And let's plug that in. We'll plug that in. Okay, we're not gonna hook up the thingy here, but we should be able to tell whether the LEDs turn on. And the radio's on. Got that plugged in. And there's the button. Let's see if it turns on. Yes, it does. Well, the steering did go out first.
So maybe
but,
wow, Chris, you walked us through this entire
but as you can see on the old receiver, you can see how absolutely corroded this thing is. So this thing is shot. We know that for sure.
Yeah,
but the corrosion ended up getting on the pins from the steering servo, which pretty much just screwed everything up, and this has just been a, it's been a really fun time. I hope you enjoyed today's video. We will see you in the next one.